Who's Chief Strategy Officer at BaRupOn. Derek, thanks for joining us. Happy Friday to you. So you are trying to solve a big problem, and that is a power problem. Could you just walk our viewers through exactly what you're doing right now?
Well, it's a real problem out there, not just for data centers, but for all manufacturers and anybody that is trying to turn any sort of manufacturing online this century. My company is a family office out of California, and we specialize in building these large infrastructure campuses, but we call them innovation hubs. Is we are generating all of our own power because the grid cannot support it. And the grid, if you're drawing power, we found that can hurt the community that we're coming to. And really, our goal anytime we're moving into a new community is to bring more value than we're taking from it. And so we really strive in the fact that we bring our own power. We don't use water from our sites. We recapture all the water from all of our use cases and rainwater and large detention and retention ponds and filter it through many systems to utilize on our sites. And really, this is the only way forward is to build these behind the meter energy campuses. You can't just build 1,000-acre data center. That's not this can happen going forward, in my opinion. I think that there's a lot of protest out there and a lot of people that think that data centers, they don't really understand what they're for, but they understand that they're causing trouble. And so for them, the honest thing to do is to protest them and get them restricted. And I think the only way to really move forward with this is to actually generate all of our power behind the meter so that that's not a problem and that we're not hurting the community and that we're setting the example, as well as you're not just building a data center, you're building innovation, you're bringing in manufacturing. Our site in Texas, for example, we have a 700-acre site under construction that we have a government facility that's being built there that will manufacture critical components for the US government, as well as we're bringing in magnet manufacturing, 3D printing, drone manufacturing, and advanced energy research on our site. And we're really hoping that it creates about 5,000 permanent jobs in this community versus a short term job boom and then a plateau around 200 or 300. So it's not just solving the energy problem, it's solving the community relationship problem as well.
Yeah, because there's this whole sort of not in my backyard type of movement that we're very aware of right now. I'm wondering what you think of what the tech companies are doing to solve this problem as far as that whole bring your own energy type of trend right now. I think of, Meta, for instance, with some of its investment. I think of Bloom Energy and how it's been teaming up with, the oracles of the world as well.
Absolutely. So big tech is it's a competition out there. There's only so much power available behind the meter, and that comes from natural gas to start. And so to create power from natural gas, really you need gas turbines. Those are in short supply. So the ones that do come on the market, Meta, SpaceX, they gobble those up as soon as there's an announcement of extra turbines on the market. And Bloom Energy is quite a fascinating company. I've talked with them a few times already, and their fuel cells are highly innovative. And for sites that find themselves in non-attainment or very tight emission standards, Bloom Energy is a wonderful solution. It brings very little emission standard, little emissions that bypasses a lot of the challenges that we find in this large power game.
What is the solution here? I mean, moving forward, do you believe that some of these companies are going to have to scale back on some of their CapEx plans because basically there's just not enough power? Because clearly there's some limitations here as to what you guys can do.
The amount of money that's going into this industry right now, into the specifically building out AI infrastructure, is staggering. The numbers per megawatt are in the tens of billions of dollars. It's shocking, tens of billions of dollars per megawatt. And when you get into a 100 megawatt plus or a gigawatt campus, the numbers are the capex and the GDP of smaller countries. And it's the fact that tech is doing this. We need these large language models. There's no question about that. It's a matter of national security, quite frankly. This is a tech race of the greatest of the grid is it's a tech war, in fact. And the US is at the front of it right now. And we are trying to create enough energy so that groups like Meta and groups like SpaceX and Anthropic can have the power that they need because a gigawatt of power on paper sounds easy to do, but creating in the real world is a major endeavor. Pipelines, natural gas supply, turbines, NOx emissions gear, air permits. There's a lot that goes into these campuses take years to develop. And so a lot of these tech companies only have maybe 6 to 8 months they can forward look. And so companies like us spend the 2 or 3 years developing these sites out to get them ready for big tech to come in and to capitalize on it in their timeline.
So if chips aren't the issue as far as the bottleneck is concerned, it's power, are we entering somewhat of an infrastructure race? And where would be the opportunities, do you think, to invest within that?
That's a really great question. We're definitely in a power and an energy race. I think that really interesting space is coming up right now going forward that the grid will not be able to support all of the models. Realize that these large energy complexes and innovation campuses, as I like to call them, they're revolutionizing power. Our grid is very susceptible and very weak and vulnerable right now. And these, for example, my site in Texas will have a grid connection, but not to take power, to give it back, to give sell power back to the grid, especially in times if the grid goes down or the grid is struggling. And so that's really what I think a lot of these campuses can do is provide that bridge that the grid really needs when things get difficult. And I think that's a responsibility of all of these large campuses to be able to provide that service to the grid as part of this national security kind of forward-leaning idea that we're creating.
Yeah, and then you just wonder, once the narrative shifts back to software efficiency, what you can do with less power rather than just continuing to build out more AI capacity. Derek, we have to leave it there. I could pick your brains forever, but thank you so much for your time. Have a great weekend. Derek Matthews, Chief Strategy Officer at BaRupOn. And coming up next, we'll close out the show with my final takeaways and what we're watching for next.